I have got a great garage sale haul of comic book back issues to share with you today. These are going to be books that were mostly early 90s Marvel titles, especially Spider-Man, as well as some other pretty cool surprises. Check it out. Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name's Chris, and this is Northgarden Comics. Well, today's haul I am particularly excited to share with you. Part of it is just for the haul itself, but part of it is equally for the story behind this haul. My wife and I love to go garage sailing together. She looks for all assortment of antiques and vintage and other kinds of cool things, while I am singularly focused on looking for comic books, but there are times where I'm not able to go with Nicole when she goes on these garage sale adventures. And on this particular day, Nicole went out with my son, who's 19, and they hit some garage sales together. And all I got was a picture of some brown bags on my phone at work and said, something like, "Look what we found." And I'll show you real quick. This is kind of what I saw here. And for those of you who aren't local, Schindler's is a now out of business chain here in the Twin Cities. I think it went out of business in 2007, which was just before I moved here. And this was a sports cards, comic book, and magazine chain of stores. And this was the bag that I saw in the picture. And I thought, oh, that bag's probably got some comic books in it. And came to find out that my wife and son had gone to this garage sale. My son happened to find like a Wolverine pin, which in itself was pretty cool. And when my wife was checking out with him, she saw that and remembered, oh, wait, I should ask if they have comic books. Because for those of you who have not done garage sale comic book hunting, it is the number one rule I have learned, both from my own experience as well as hearing from others. When you go to a garage sale, even if you don't see comic books, you have to ask. You have to say, do you have any comic books? And sometimes that's the best way to get them. They don't have them out for sale, which means they're not thinking about selling them. And then maybe it turns out they do have some collecting dust somewhere in the house. And in this case, it was two parents and their son who's grown and moved out. He used to collect comic books, and apparently he took most of his comics with him, but there were some that he left behind, and I guess they were the unwanted ones. Don't know all those details, but my wife said, "Hey, do you have any comic books?" And the wife said to the husband, "Yeah, do we have some?" And a little bit of conversation, and they're like, I think we do. They went in, they came out with these 3 bags, and then, just in chit-chatting, they wound up saying, you can have all these for 25 cents a piece, a quarter a piece. And my wife said, all right, we'll take all of them. So she got $9 or spent $9 and got 36 comic books for me. Then they FaceTimed me at work and showed me, and I was through the roof excited. So I get no credit for this haul, just that I get to reap the benefits of that great garage sale hunt. So I want to say thank you to Nicole, my wife, my son Gabe, for asking on my behalf if they had comics, and then coming home with this cool haul. As we now kind of talk about the books themselves, what's particularly exciting about them, 3 bags of comic books for $9 would have been exciting before I even knew what was in there. But when you get into it, it got even more exciting because most of these are Spider-Man issues and titles, and they come from the early 90s, which was really my early prime days of collecting. I started in like 87, 88, and so by the early 90s, I was in full swing with collecting a bunch of different things. Interestingly, I wasn't a huge Spider-Man collector. I picked up Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man run for a little bit, and I picked up, a little bit of things here and there, but I was more focused on X-Men titles because Jim Lee's book had just started the year before. I had Uncanny X-Men going, X-Factor was going, I was into the Transformers things, which I think we're probably winding down at this point, but you get the idea. Spider-Man was not a huge character of mine, but I had a smattering of things. Nevertheless, these books, as I flip through them, really give me that nostalgic sentimentality and remembering back to those early days when I was collecting in the early 90s. So I'm excited to be able to share these books with you today. I will say up front that while there are some books in here that are considered minor keys, there's nothing amazing in terms of, no hundreds or thousands of dollars of value in any of these books. There's a couple that get into the, low double digits, but overall, it's just a fun haul. And if you haven't looked for comic books at garage sales, I really encourage you to do so. You don't find them often, but when you do, it's just so exciting and so fun to find them. And for me as a reader and a collector, that hunt and that thrill of the hunt is so much of the excitement and the fun anyway. So it's a big part of my joy in this hobby. So happy to share these books with you now. I did organize these by title and put them in number order, so we have some kind of organization here. Starting off here with Spectacular Spider-Man. This is issue 186. I have a few issues from this run, like I said, but nothing with any kind of continuity that gives me stories. It does seem like this collector pulled together some storylines from this era of Spider-Man titles, and you'll start to see some of the same titles in the covers here. But we got Spectacular Spider-Man 186, Funeral Arrangements Part 1, and these are all Sal Buscema cover art. He may do all the interiors as well, but I did notice he at least does all the covers. And then there's 187. Jumping ahead to 211. Looks like he got this for 99 cents at one point. And there's a good mix of direct editions and newsstands as well. Here's Spectacular Spider-Man 217. This theme seemed to go through all the Spider-Man titles at this time. One, you've got the cool hollow foil cover, but then it's also a flip book. So you flip it over and then you've got another cover on the back there. You'll see a mixture of these. Not all of the issues that have this flip book treatment are the hollow foils, but it's a good mixture there. 218. And for the most part, they're in pretty good shape. There's a little bit of dirt down here, kind of not grime, but looks a little off color. So one of these days when I learn how to clean comic books and get some tools to do that, these are some of the books I would definitely see if I could clean those up. 219, you got Daredevil in his very 90s costume. 220. And see, that's one of those flip books, but it's not the special cover. And then 221, that's a nice looking cover there. So those are the issues for Spectacular Spider-Man. Next up, we're going to go to Web of Spider-Man. I think there's a key that's right before this. I think 86 is a minor key, but 87 is the first issue that he had, a newsstand. And then 88. I actually own a copy of 88 already. I could not tell you for the life of me where I got it originally. I had it long before I had my CLZ app to keep track of those things, so I don't recall. It's been lost to history and my memory fading over time to know where I got that Web of Spider-Man originally. Jumping ahead to 112. So this Pursuit storyline comes up a couple times. 117. I actually picked up a copy of this myself within the last year or so, I'd say, and it is the special reflective cover. This is the flip book. I think, actually, this may not be a flip book. Let's take a look. I thought that some of these still had the flip book element, but not have the fancy cover. Nope, it is not a flip book. It just has a regular back cover to it. So I'll have to compare those a little more closely to see how far the differences go between this and the special cover. And then, so that's it for Web of Spider-Man. Now I go over to the adjectiveless Spider-Man title that started under Todd McFarlane in 1990. And like I said before, I did collect this early on when it was Todd McFarlane doing the writing and the art, and then I dropped off. This, though, is just after that ended. Todd McFarlane finished his run with issue 16, and then Eric Larson took over. And There's other parts of this volume that I'm collecting today, trying to get the John Romita Jr. art that's way at the other end of this volume. But I'm really happy to have these in my collection now because this art just really flashes me back as well. Very early 90s vibe to this. And I'm sure I saw these in stores when they were coming out. But he had issue 19. Love issue 20 there. I did buy a copy of this for myself in the last handful of years, but it was a beat up copy. This is an upgrade for me, but I love that cover. So many bullet casings. Very 90s, but I just love the pose of Spider-Man. I don't know if the barrels on these guns are extra large or if it's just a visual thing because we're looking straight at them. I don't know, but that's a great cover. So happy to have an upgrade of issue 20. And then the next one is excellent as well. 21, Deathlock. And that's, again, such a nostalgic vibe that strikes for me. So very excited to have that. Very happy to add those few issues to my collection. But we're not done. We jump ahead. Here's issue 45 from the same Spider-Man title. Again, here's more of that Pursuit storyline. Looks like this was sold for $2.25 at one point. And then one last one. This one is a minor key, but I think the value may be in the special cover, like the hollow foil version of the cover. This comic is the one where Ben Reilly, his identity is revealed. So don't know if the standard cover has any kind of value to it, but I know the hollow foil version does. But again, I wouldn't have gone looking for this book, but to happen to get it for a quarter at a garage sale, super happy to add that to my collection. Now we go over to the flagship Spider-Man title, Amazing Spider-Man. I will say, I don't know my Spider-Man keys well at all. I've just never tracked them, and I haven't been collecting them. You know, unless it's a major key, I'm probably going to miss it. So I'm not going to list the significance of each of these issues. So if you're looking for that, you can go check out Key Collector Comics app. You can look online to see what little bit of significance each of these has. 375, I will say though, is a milestone issue. This is the 30th anniversary of Amazing Spider-Man. Kind of cool to have found that this year because we're celebrating his 60th anniversary this year. So that's a fun find. I love the 90s gimmick cover of that reflective kind of treatment as well. And then it's a newsstand, and this does have some significance. Again, I forget what it is offhand. I'll put it down below if I once I look it up and look that up. But that was a cool find. And then jumping ahead to 389, great cover here. Another thing I'll say about this era of Amazing Spider-Man is all of these issues come from the Mark Bagley run when he was doing art. And Mark Bagley is another artist that really, you know, flashes me back to the early 90s. And that's when I was first introduced to his art style. And even today when I see him, it gives me nostalgic vibes from those early 90s. So happy to have gotten not only some Amazing Spider-Man issues, which I don't have many of to begin with from Volume 1, but that they're all from the Mark Bagley run. Because the few issues I do have do fall in this range. So this actually builds out that run a little bit for me. But great cover there on 389. And this one's cool too because it's got this insert about the Marvel Master Prints. And it's got this, all these inserts are still intact, which is really kind of cool. Here's get the glare out of there. Spidey Strength, Spider Leap, and Spider Sense. So 3 different cards there that are listed. Love it when it had inserts and they're intact. But there's issue 389. 390, this one is a duplicate for me. I have this exact same one. My CLZ app lists this one a couple different ways. I don't know if this was the version that was originally polybagged, but they do have a variant that's called like the metallic lettering variant. This does not seem to be that. Nothing about the lettering seems metallic. So, but the covers in CLZ, like the image, looks identical to me. I can't tell the difference. So my guess is that this is was in the polybag. I don't know, but would that have been direct? Anyway, I digress. So I have 390 and I have two copies of that now. 391. 392. This is another one that I did have already. That is an homage cover to, is it Amazing Spider-Man 50? But that's a nice one to have as well. 393. Love the Mark Bagley art. Another kind of a specialty cover here. It's a flip book and it has the reflective cover. Here's on the back. That's a pretty cool cover as well for number 394. Great to have that. 395. 396 again with Daredevil in his black costume. 397. Stunner. I think that's the significance, the minor key of this one is this first appearance of this character, Stunner. See, now interesting though, this one doesn't have the fancy reflective cover, but it still calls itself a fabulous flip book. So it does have a little lizard cover on the back there. So I don't know what the distinction was between which ones were flip, which ones were not, which ones got the reflective covers, and which ones didn't. So if you know any of that detail, please let us all know down in the comments. And then number 398, that's the last one for Amazing Spider-Man. Another great cover with Doc Ock there. We're getting close, but we're not quite done yet. Now, the rest of these books, there's a couple more Spider-Man, and then just some other odds and ends here that my wife found. So this is Spider-Man: The Lost Years, issue 0. This issue I actually had on my wish list because of the John Romita Jr. cover. And it's a great looking cover. I love that. I don't think he does the interior art on this one, but he does do both the covers and interior art on issues 1, 2, and 3. So it was a little limited series, and really happy to have found issue 0. I don't think there's anything. Well, actually, I don't want to pull that one out. I'll spoil what's behind it. But if there's anything on the back there, I'll come back and show it to you. Spider-Man: Lost Years 0. The next one was very close to a very cool key. Spider-Man 2099 issue 2. I was really hoping, I was like, oh, if they have issue 1, that'll be fantastic. But they didn't. They have issue 2. But you know what? I kind of like issue 2s as well. Issue number 1s get all the love. And then I also like, though, the final issue of a volume, because sometimes that's a lower print run and maybe harder to find. So there's some excitement and hunting for those. But then also number 2 issues. I feel like they don't get a lot of loving. Everyone goes for the number 1 and then they forget about everything else. But that's a cool cover too. Spider-Man 2099 number 2. And then, well, dare I say it? I got an Amazing Fantasy 15. It is not a first print. This would be a very different situation. My level of excitement would have been, exponentially higher if it was an Amazing Fantasy 15 first print. It is one of the first reprints, though, I think. This black border, I think, came from these action figures. So if you bought this Spider-Man figure, you got this version of the reprint, and this reprint is from 2001. And then you've got a Rhino one here, another Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, and then a Daredevil there. So those are the different figures you could have bought. So I think this is that reprint version. And then even in the fine print here, it does say down in here, not for sale. So was not sold individually. It was sold with that toy. And this is just fun to have this in a reprint form. I am expecting later this year the Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1. As a collector and reader of comics, I just thought that was a good move to make and have in my collection, that omnibus, to collect a lot of those early ASM issues that I don't ever expect to own as single issues in my collection. But as a comic historian, good to have those early stories and to have those, in my library and be able to read those when I want. So now I have a single copy, or a single issue copy, of Amazing Fantasy 15 as well. Here we go to Wildcats Trilogy #1. I did have this already. I have the full trilogy, but the variant I have of issue #1 is that metallic variant, and this is the newsstand edition, and so it's just a standard cover. So pretty cool, not a true duplicate. Glad to have that in my collection. And recently, if you've been watching any of my videos, you've probably heard me say I'm trying to get some of that early Image issues and titles that I liked back then. And this is probably one I would not have picked up otherwise, but since it was just a quarter and it was part of this whole lot, then great, happy to have it. Couple DC books in here. We have the Robin 2 miniseries. I actually have issue 1 from this, and in this lot here they got issue #3 and issue #4. So now I'm only missing issue 2, so I figured wasn't attached to it, but the completionist in me says, why not? I'll just go find issue 2 at some point and then read the whole thing. So that's one thing. The other thing with this holographic cover, I do still like the gimmicky covers, but this is a Norm Breyfogle variant of issue 3, and I like his art from his time on Batman, so cool to have his variant of the cover to issue #3 there. And then again, there's #4. Joker looking a little weird to me there. That hair's kind of crazy too. And ice skates, that is not a cut you want to get. All right, 2 more books, both of them Archie comics. This first one is seemingly just a random issue of Jughead #32. I don't think there's any significance to it. And yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say about that. And then the last book, though, I did save one of the best books for last. I love everything in here, but the last book is also very cool. As a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, both the current IDW run, but I also was into the Turtles a bit back at this time. Have a few of their comic books, but not all of them. But because of this garage sale, I'm adding one more to my collection, and it is Turtles Meet Archie. And again, you know, are you going to spend $100 on this book? No. I think it might be like a $15 book or something like that. And it's not in tip-top condition. It does have a little bit of a rip here in the cover, but it's this cool Mikey eating pizza, this cool wraparound cover. And again, a book that I would not go out of my way to find and to pay up for, but at a garage sale, you just never know what you're going to find. And sometimes you find some less common things that, like I said, you wouldn't see in a store on any given day, maybe because they sold out of it and the people who want it have already bought it. But a garage sale is an opportunity to also, you get all the books that one particular person collected. It's not a business first and foremost. This was this person's interests. And sometimes you'll find that their interests overlapped yours greatly. And there's a lot of the same things they collected that you collected, and that's fun. But then there's other times where they collected things that are really different from what you collected. And so you get to see a wide variety of things. So all that to say, you know, kind of where I started, garage sales are a great way to hunt for comics. You don't find them often, or at least I don't find them frequently at comic books, at garage sales. But when you do, it's usually pretty darn fun. So I would encourage you, if you like garage sales, get out there and ask if they have comic books. You might just be surprised. So I think a great book to end this fantastic haul on. Again, the books are super fun. The story is super duper fun. I just loved everything about this, that my wife was willing to ask if they had comic books, that they in fact did have comic books, and that it was a bunch of stuff that's really interesting to me. So I got a bunch of Spider-Mans that I never had before, a great walk down memory lane from this era of Marvel and other comic books like Image, things like that, but super happy with this haul. All right, that's going to do it for me, and that's going to wrap up this 25-cent garage sale haul of back issues that my wonderful wife Nicole brought home for me. I do hope you saw something that you liked, but let me know about your own hunting. Have you ever tried to buy comic books at garage sales, and have you ever had any success? If so, let me know the kinds of cool things that you found in the comments below. Now, if you're not quite ready for the YouTube fun to stop, I have hand-selected a couple videos here for you to check out. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.